What was your blood pressure the last time you checked it? I do not mean that routine number your doctor casually mentioned 6 months ago during a fleeting checkup. I mean, what is your blood pressure actually doing right now in your real everyday life? Think about it. You could be strictly following a clean diet, hitting the gym regularly, and genuinely believing you are in the absolute best shape of your life. Yet what happens when you occasionally check that machine and see an abnormal reading? Do you just brush it off and assume it is a temporary glitch? That is exactly what one of our community members, Midas, did until he suddenly suffered a life-threatening aortic dissection. He survived, and now he is passionately advocating for one critical message: never ignore high blood pressure just because you feel completely fine. His life changed in a single dramatic instant, and his story is a powerful wake-up call for all of us. High blood pressure is often called a silent threat because it quietly damages your cardiovascular system without causing any immediate pain. Your blood pressure is not a static number that stays frozen after a doctor's visit. It fluctuates constantly throughout the day based on your stress, food, and movement. This means you have incredible daily power to shift those numbers in the right direction, protecting your blood vessels and preventing your body from prematurely aging. I recently accompanied a close friend to his regular medical appointment, and as the nurse wrapped the cuff around his arm and took the reading, the monitor displayed a remarkably high number. Yet, the nurse remained completely silent, and because my friend felt perfectly fine in that moment, he did not think anything was wrong either. Even the doctor did not mention the elevated reading during the entire consultation, but my friend also made a critical mistake. He did not speak up to ask if his numbers were safe or abnormal. I believe he remained quiet out of sheer embarrassment, which is a surprisingly common reaction shared by another viewer, Anthony. Let me be absolutely clear. Experiencing elevated blood pressure is absolutely nothing to feel ashamed of. It is simply a vital data point, a clear message from your biology indicating that your body requires a necessary tune-up. Just like an older car needs regular maintenance to keep running smoothly on the road, our bodies naturally require adjustments as we navigate the reality of life. Another member of our community, Calypso, recently noted how incredibly confusing modern medical recommendations can feel. But the core baseline for what is truly considered a healthy, normal reading has actually remained remarkably consistent for decades. Back in 2001, an optimal systolic reading was strictly defined as being under 120, and that standard remains unchanged today for a very specific reason. This standard is backed by massive clinical data tracking over 1 million people, which revealed that for every 10-point increase in your systolic blood pressure, regardless of your age, your risk of developing debilitating heart disease or suffering a stroke rises significantly. In fact, the absolute greatest relative risk increase occurs in younger individuals who mistakenly believe they are invincible. What has actually shifted over the years is the medical definition of high blood pressure, known as hypertension. In the past, clinical stage 1 hypertension was officially diagnosed when the top number climbed above 140, but modern guidelines have lowered that threshold to 130 to catch the damage much earlier. As a viewer named JPR noted, every single human being is completely unique in their genetic ability to maintain optimal cardiovascular health, and official medical guidelines do carefully account for those individual biological differences. However, objective data is data, and abnormal values consistently elevate the risk of severe long-term health complications. Medical professionals emphasize these numbers not to cause unnecessary panic, but to actively minimize your future health risks. It is vital to realize that clinical intervention represents only 1% of the equation, while the remaining 99% relies entirely on your personal, daily efforts to manage your wellness. As Travis, another member of our community, correctly pointed out, lifestyle modification is the absolute #1 treatment to prevent and reverse elevated blood pressure, which is exactly what we are focusing on today. However, current medical guidelines state that if you are over the age of 18 and consistently show a reading greater than 140/90, a physician will likely recommend starting a prescription medication to protect your organs. If you are over the age of 60, that medication threshold typically shifts to 150/90. Of course, there are always unique biological exceptions to these rules, which is precisely why medicine must always be a deeply personal, collaborative partnership between you and your healthcare provider. There is absolutely no substitute for that direct human connection and tailored clinical guidance. But regardless of what your current numbers are or what stage of hypertension you might find yourself in, Daily lifestyle interventions remain the most powerful and effective tool you possess to naturally lower your numbers. Going back to my friend's situation, I sat him down and had a serious, candid conversation about the long-term gravity of ignoring stage 1 hypertension. Within just one single week of making intentional daily adjustments, he successfully lowered his systolic blood pressure by a stunning 20 points without a single prescription pill or expensive supplement. Because he is still relatively young, his blood vessels had not suffered irreversible structural damage yet, making them incredibly responsive to positive changes in his daily habits. This rapid transformation was incredibly exciting to witness, because clinical data shows that safely reducing your numbers can lower your average risk of stroke by 40%, cut heart attack risk by 25%, and slash heart failure by over 50%. Knowing these life-saving statistics, why aren't we all actively tracking this? The very first step to taking control is mastering how to read your monitor. When you see a reading like 130/80, you are looking at two distinct pressures. The top number, systolic, represents the intense pressure inside your arteries when your heart actively contracts to pump blood out to the body. This number becomes increasingly critical as you age, particularly over 50, because blood vessels naturally lose elasticity and become stiffer over time. The bottom number, diastolic, measures the resting pressure your arteries experience between beats when your heart pauses to refill. If you are younger, this resting number can be an exceptionally vital indicator of vascular health. Both of these numbers matter immensely, and you cannot simply ignore a high top number just because the bottom one looks perfectly fine. Generally, a truly normal reading is under 120/80. When your numbers start creeping above that baseline, especially into the 130s and beyond, it demands your attention. This is not about obsessing over a metric, but because blood pressure provides an affordable and powerful window into your cardiovascular health. It reveals whether your blood vessels are under constant strain handling the force of each heartbeat, or if your blood is circulating smoothly without causing micro damage to your arterial walls. Therefore, the most critical tool you can purchase for your health, longevity, and peace of mind is a reliable home blood pressure monitor. Tracking your numbers at home completely eliminates the guesswork and allows you to clearly identify personal health patterns. You will quickly notice exactly what happens to your body after dining out at a restaurant, losing a night of quality sleep, experiencing a stressful argument, drinking alcohol, or consuming heavily salted meals. Conversely, you will see the immediate positive impact of proper hydration and regular physical movement. This direct, real-time feedback is what truly drives lasting behavioral change. When choosing a device, an upper arm cuff is generally much more accurate than a wrist monitor. To use it correctly, you should sit quietly with your feet flat, wrap the cuff around your bare arm, and align it properly with your brachial artery near the crook of your elbow. When your numbers start creeping above that baseline, especially into the 130s and beyond, it demands your attention. This is not about obsessing over a metric, but because blood pressure provides an affordable and powerful window into your cardiovascular health. It reveals whether your blood vessels are under constant strain handling the force of each heartbeat, or if your blood is circulating smoothly without causing micro damage to your arterial walls. Therefore, the most critical tool you can purchase for your health, longevity, and peace of mind is a reliable home blood pressure monitor. Tracking your numbers at home completely eliminates the guesswork and allows you to clearly identify personal health patterns. You will quickly notice exactly what happens to your body after dining out at a restaurant, losing a night of quality sleep, experiencing a stressful argument, drinking alcohol, or consuming heavily salted meals. Conversely, you will see the immediate positive impact of proper hydration and regular physical movement. This direct, real-time feedback is what truly drives lasting behavioral change. When choosing a device, an upper arm cuff is generally much more accurate than a wrist monitor. To use it correctly, you should sit quietly with your feet flat, wrap the cuff around your bare arm, and align it properly with your brachial artery near the crook of your elbow. Ideally, you want to keep your arm completely relaxed at the exact level of your heart before pressing the start button. When I check my own blood pressure, it consistently registers around 103/76 with a resting heart rate of 66 beats per minute, which is perfectly healthy and normal for my body. However, if those are not your typical numbers, a reading that low could potentially make you feel dizzy or unwell, which is why you must always consult your physician regarding your personal baseline. If you ever capture an unusually high or abnormal reading at home, take a deep breath, wait a few minutes, and repeat the test to ensure accuracy. To verify that your home machine is completely trustworthy, simply bring it along to your next doctor's appointment and compare its readings directly against their clinical equipment. Before we dive into our 20 natural strategies, I notice so many comments from viewers who watch my content regularly, but forget to hit that subscribe button. Если вы цените эту информацию, пожалуйста, поддержите канал лайком и подпиской, ведь это помогает распространять важные знания о здоровье абсолютно бесплатно. Now, let us count down the most effective lifestyle habits, starting with strategy number 1, eliminating or strictly limiting alcohol, which can directly reduce your reading by 2 to 4 millimeters of mercury. Strategy number 2 is an absolute non-negotiable, regular physical movement. When my friend and I went out for a simple, brisk 30-minute walk, that single session dropped his blood pressure by an impressive 20 points when he checked it later that same day. Dedicating at least 30 minutes to a brisk walk most days of the week can consistently lower your baseline readings by 4 to 9 millimeters of mercury, and combining multiple habits can yield even greater cumulative results. Strategy number 3 can be incredibly tough to hear, but it is vital. Aim to shed those extra 10 pounds if you are carrying excess weight. The ultimate key to successful weight management lies in your actual eating patterns, not in extreme fasting or aggressive calorie deprivation. It is entirely about the nutritional quality of your food. Diets rich in essential whole food fiber and vital electrolytes like potassium and magnesium are clinically proven to relax your vascular system, while processed diets lacking these nutrients naturally drive numbers up. You might be feeling a bit resistant right now, thinking that you already eat relatively well and exercise consistently. But objective data does not lie. If your numbers remain elevated despite your current routine, it means your efforts need to be redirected more effectively toward the right strategies. Medical literature often claims that high blood pressure causes absolutely no symptoms until a major medical crisis occurs, but I completely disagree with that perspective. The reality is that your body constantly sends subtle warning signs, but most people simply fail to connect the dots. Frequent lower back pain, unexplained fatigue, persistent headaches, unprovoked anxiety, facial flushing, brain fog, sudden dizziness, or subtle heart palpitations can all be quiet manifestations of vascular strain. Over time, your resilient body unfortunately adapts to this elevated pressure, turning a dangerous state into your new, deceptive normal. You might not recognize anything as wrong until you experience a sudden catastrophic event like a stroke, a heart attack, or an emergency room crisis. That is exactly what happened to my friend, who described a terrifying feeling of impending doom before asking me to support him during his recovery. One of the most profoundly loving things you can do for yourself today is to stop waiting for a severe symptom to give you permission to act. Start by focusing on strategy number 4, managing your morning blood pressure. Your body naturally experiences a sharp hormonal surge of cortisol and adrenaline right when you wake up, causing your heart rate to accelerate and blood vessels to constrict as you transition from rest to action. If your body is already dealing with chronic inflammation, high stress, or mild dehydration, that natural morning surge can easily become dangerously excessive, which is exactly why severe cardiovascular events occur most frequently in the early morning hours. To combat this, strategy number 4 is simple. Do not launch out of bed like a rocket. Sit up slowly, pause for a full minute to let your cardiovascular system adjust, and then stand up gently. Follow this immediately with strategy number 5. Drink a full glass of pure water first thing in the morning before reaching for any caffeinated beverages. Mild overnight dehydration adds immediate physical stress to a struggling vascular system, and hydrating early calms your nervous system before daily demands take over. Next, implement strategy number 6 by practicing intentional breathwork, such as taking a slow 4-second inhale through your nose and extending your exhale for 6 to 8 seconds to instantly signal safety to your brainstem and vagus nerve. Finally, avoid making coffee your very first morning move, steer completely clear of sodium-laden restaurant meals and processed TV dinners, and start actively tracking your daily meals alongside your numbers. By incorporating potent superfoods like ground flaxseeds, vibrant arugula, roasted beetroots, organic hibiscus tea, magnesium-rich leafy greens, and fiber-packed beans while completely avoiding hidden sodium in commercial breads, you will unlock the ultimate natural blueprint for long-term cardiovascular health.